All right, Friday Eve.
Hello.
Oh, yes.
Almost there.
Like that.
So much happening, though. I feel like the news cycle has been
Busy day.
a rapid one. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us here on KARE 11 News at noon. We're covering several big stories today, from the funeral of late President Jimmy Carter to the most destructive fires in LA County history raging on.
Yeah, it's truly devastating. I've been looking into where things stand today. We're now up to 5 fires. I'll have everything you need to know in a second.
But first, let's go ahead and take a look at our weather here closer to home with John. Hey,
Yeah,
John.
well, again, pretty quiet here, but we're tracking up light snow. Haven't seen any snow for a very long time. So highs today are going to be around 27, 24 degrees. Temperatures are warm. I mean, this is the reason actually we're expecting snow, is that warm afternoon, if you want to call it warm. It's a little band of light snow. Looks like a lot of this is hanging off to the north of St. Cloud. Anything south of St. Cloud, it doesn't look like a whole lot. So we'll see what the Twin Cities ends up getting here. But as we drive in here, you can see St. Cloud, areas to the north of that, Little Falls. There is a decent little band of snow there. That'll be Highway 10, 371, heading off to the north. Let's go up towards Lake Mille Lacs. You can see Lake Mille Lacs, that area, Onamia, Garrison, you guys are about to get a little light snow. Brainerd, Cross Lake, there's a little light band there as well. Now the band, it's only going to last about 20 or 30 minutes, and then it's going to really taper off to flurries. So it's going to be very difficult to accumulate this fast. But we'll see our light snow here in the Twin Cities at around 4, 5, 6 p.m. So it will be during the evening rush. But again, looks pretty light. The concern at this point is low, but you never know. There could be a couple slick spots, so be prepared for that. Also, a drop in visibility as you're out there. So again, take it easy on the roads. We'll track a better chance for some real accumulating snow, maybe even shovels on Sunday.
And right now, smoke is billowing over Los Angeles County as 5 fires burn through homes and businesses, changing the landscape of California. So, Cece, I know that you've been following this since the overnight hours. Has there been any containment?
Well, Governor Gavin Newsom gave an update on some of the fires just a couple of hours ago, and we now know the Hearst fire is 10% contained, the Lydia fire is 40% contained, and the latest blaze, the Sunset fire, is holding right now. At last check, the Palisades and Eaton fires aren't contained at all. Authorities say the wildfires have killed at least 5 people and forced more than 100,000 people from their homes. The latest blaze, like I mentioned, is the Sunset fire in the Hollywood Hills. It's holding at about 43 acres before it was threatening iconic landmarks. Meanwhile, the Palisades fire has burned through more than 17,000 acres and destroyed 1,000 structures, making it the most destructive in LA history. Homes and businesses have been reduced to rubble, and the Eaton fire has quickly reduced much of the Altadena area to ash and rubble too. More than 350,000 people were without power early today, including 200,000 in LA County, which is the most densely populated county in the entire country. Crews from the ground have told us that the intense Santa Ana winds have eased compared to the past 2 days, but wind gusts are still expected to be 40 to 50 miles per hour today and 50 to 70 miles per hour tonight into tomorrow morning. Officials saying the worst isn't over yet.
So many things to continue to look into. Those images, awe-striking. Cece, thank you so much. Okay, let's go ahead and toss it over to John with what made those winds so dangerous, John?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the Santa Ana winds. What is that? How does it impact fires? Well, the Santa Ana wind is from a high pressure that originates over the Great Basin, especially over the desert. That's what's important. This funnels in very dry air into Southern California. So you can imagine the area of the wind starts in the desert. Of course, the desert is very dry. And again, this leads to and has led to 50 to 80 mile per hour winds. So how this works: when the wind actually goes through higher elevation and then sinks down into that basin, that is where they actually pick up not only speed, but when you take a wind and you lower it in elevation, you are taking out moisture. It's part of the energy balance equation. So you take out moisture to extend the wind a little bit stronger. That makes the wind very dangerous because the dew points in this are extremely low. Think about the desert and those winds at 50 to 80 miles per hour. They just can't contain the fire with that type of wind. That is a Santa Ana wind.
John, thank you. A Minnesota native who now lives in California woke up today without a home and most of her belongings. Julie Locke says that she lost almost everything in the wildfires Tuesday night. She's lived in Los Angeles area since about 2000 after graduating from law school at the U of M and moving to California for work. After evacuating her neighborhood in the Palisades Tuesday afternoon, she and her husband learned their house was destroyed through a phone call from a friend in the LA Fire Department.
I've seen footage of my block, of our good friend's block, and every house is just in ashes.
Locke says she and her husband will be staying with friends or getting a rental for now, but she and her husband plan to rebuild their house in the future. As the effort to fight back against these fires continue, we will be tracking the latest from those who have been impacted and those communities who've been impacted. Find the latest on air and online at KARE11.com. Well, to our south, we're also tracking what could be one of the worst southern snowstorms in years. Forecasters are saying that it will span from parts of New Mexico to the Carolinas by Saturday. These are the areas of the country that don't often get below freezing, so people are less likely to own snow shovels, and these communities have fewer plows and salt spreaders. In Texas, officials say that their power supply should be able to handle the impact. Another one of our top stories today, former President Jimmy Carter's body will return to Georgia this afternoon to be buried in his hometown of Plains. It comes just after the nation said their final goodbyes. Here's Chris Pallone in Washington.
I see God.
A funeral befitting a president at Washington National Cathedral. The late President Jimmy Carter remembered by his beloved family, friends, and those who worked with him in the White House decades ago. Ahead of that, mourners by the thousands came to the Capitol to pay their respects, each with his own reasons for coming.
Well, I think President Carter and Rosalind Carter deserve all the respect that the world can muster.
They waited in line for hours in frigid temperatures just to spend a few moments with a president who touched their lives in some way.
He's definitely done a lot, as a human being and for the world.
Respect, selfless, willing to do what was right.
Political leaders and celebrities joined the masses, as well as all of the nation's living presidents. President Biden delivering a eulogy for his longtime friend. After that, Special Air Mission 39 will take the 39th president home to Georgia for a private service at the church where he taught Sunday school for decades. Then, burial next to his beloved wife, Rosalind. Chris Pallone, NBC News, Washington.
In Minneapolis, early voting is underway for the special primary election to fill the vacancy in Senate District 60. Governor Tim Walz called for the special election after the death of DFL Senator Kerry Dietzick last month. Now, voters who live in Northeast Minneapolis, Cedar Riverside, and the University of Minnesota area can now vote. You can find your polling place on the Secretary of State's website. And the special primary is set for January 14th, and the election will be on the 28th. With another slow start to the snowy season, this year's Klondike Dog Derby in Excelsior is now canceled. Organizers released a statement early this morning. Audrey Russo shows us how it could impact the fairly new event.
In the end, it all came down to safety. Organizers say that there's simply not enough hard-packed snow on the ground, and they don't anticipate getting enough anytime soon. The Klondike Dog Derby organizers tell us they need 2 weeks to properly groom the trail before race day, and they don't expect there being enough snow that far enough in the future to even postpone the race. Each year, the 40-mile sled race around frozen Lake Minnetonka brings roughly 30,000 people to Excelsior. The organizers describe the safety concerns about a dog sled race on an icy surface with no snow.
One of the hardest things with these dogs is stopping them. They want to run, and so you get them going, and if you're on ice, there's a brake you can hit, but once again, hitting that ice, there just isn't enough friction for that sometimes.
Unfortunately for Excelsior, this is one of the biggest weekends for business and tourism. The race organizers are still holding some events to keep that business boost going. January 25th, there's a Cutest Puppy contest. The weekend after that, a free 2-day concert series. And another big loss here, the animal welfare organizations that benefit from the race's net proceeds every year. If you'd like to donate, you can go to KlondikeDogDerby.com. Back to you.
A group of investors are voicing concern and pushing for transparency over United Health Group's business practices. The Interfaith Center for Corporate Responsibility represents more than 300 investment groups that include pension plans and faith-based organizations. Members are asking for more information on how United Health delayed or denied coverage for some customers and what the decisions mean for their quality of life and the overall economy.
These are investors. They want the company to do well. At the end of the day, you want the company to do well, you want the company to perform, but sometimes there's concerns around risk mitigation, right?
A spokesperson for United Health says the company will respond to any shareholder proposals in the next proxy statement, which is expected later this spring. The investor group says its concerns started well before the murder of Brian Thompson. Meanwhile, a hearing in the case against Thompson's alleged killer, Luigi Mangione, has been delayed. His next federal court date is being pushed back to mid-February so both legal teams can better prepare. Mangione pleaded not guilty to 11 separate state charges in New York. Well, at the state capitol, we're less than a week away from the start of a new legislative session. And one big topic will be sports betting, which 38 other states have legalized, but not Minnesota. After nearly reaching a deal last year, lawmakers are expected to go back to the drawing board to pass a bill. But in the last 24 hours, DFL Senate Finance Chair John Marty held a hearing giving voice to the opponents who raised awareness about the risks and dangers of legalized gambling in other states.
This was a public health disaster that was destroying real lives and real families.
Well, this issue is complicated because there are supporters and opponents within each political party. Lawmakers who worked on last year's bill say that they're hopeful they can get a deal done in 2025 that addresses concerns on all sides.